Hi, this is Mohammed Shakir. In this video, we'll explore how to write simple Python code to send a message to a large language model, retrieve its response, and print it on the console. I'm sure you have used chatbots to interact with the LLMs several times. This will be an exciting opportunity for you to learn how to implement a simple chatbot in Python using the API key and the SDK provided by the LLM. Okay, so I have idea projects and now here I will create a new folder called LangChain underscore I'll say training. And I'll just simply go to that particular folder and I will set up the Python environment. How will I set up the Python environment? Well, I am assuming that you have already installed Python on your machine. If not, then just go to perplexity.ai and there you can ask anything to Perplexity. It's more powerful than Google. And then you can just simply type out give you the steps to install Python. Within 2 to 3 minutes, you will be able to install Python on your own machine. Whether you are on Windows or Mac, it's a breeze to install Python on your machine. Once Python is installed, I'm also assuming that you already know Python, but even if you do not, absolutely fine. It is absolutely fine. Why? You will be able to get along with Python automatically as we proceed further. Python is one of the most easiest language on the face of this earth to learn. And that is one big reason why it has become such a big hit. So coming back to the point over here, let us create a Python environment here. I say Python 3. This is how I will do it on my Mac machine. I'll say -m venv and I'll say env. So venv creates a virtual environment. Env is the name of the folder in which that virtual environment will be created. If at all you want, if at all you are on Windows machine, then in that case the command would be py and space -m, same thing, venv and env. Env is the name of the folder. The name of this folder can be anything. It can be env or any name of the folder. This is the folder that will be created as a result of this command. And in that folder, you will have the virtual environment of your Python. So all the libraries that you will install for this particular project will be there in this env folder. Okay, so I am on Mac machine. So I say Python and I'll say Python 3. I'll say -m, sorry, venv and I'll say env. So Python environment is created. As you can see, ls-l, the folder that I have over here is env. If I had given the name of the folder instead of env yabadabadu, then in that case, it will end up creating the virtual environment in a folder called yabadabadu. Well, how do I activate it? I can, if at all I want to continue using Python or write code right here in the terminal and then execute it, then I would want to set up the set up the environment here. I would want to activate, rather, I would say the environment here using source, and I'll say env/bin slash, and I'll say activate. Sorry, the spelling was wrong. Bin/activate, and here you are, it is activated. Now, if I say Python hyphen version, I don't have to say Python 3. It will tell me that this is Python 3.13.2. I can also pip hyphen version, and it tells me that, okay, this is so and so 24.3.1 is the version of pip. Well, if you are on Windows, then in that case, you can very well just simply, instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll just go back to the terminal again and again, idea projects. And then here I'll go to LangChain training. Okay, if you are on Windows, then in that case, you just have to say env/bin, sorry, not bin, scripts/activate. That's it. You don't even have to give source and just hit the enter key and the environment will be activated. As I am on Mac, I'll say source and I'll say env/bin/activate. Well, as I mentioned earlier, this was not necessary to activate the Python environment here from the from the terminal. Why? Because we will be using the IDE, and it is that IDE in which we will configure our Python environment. So let's get started. I'll say IntelliJ. I start my IntelliJ IDE. As I said, I have Ultimate Edition, the paid edition. You can very well go ahead and use the community edition of IntelliJ. Or as I said earlier, please feel free to use Visual Studio, PyCharm, whatever, whichever IDE you are familiar with or you are fan of, you can just go ahead and use it. So you see this here, I'll say open. Now I had already created this folder and opened it, hence I'm getting it here. Otherwise, just simply click on open, go to idea projects, go to LangChain training, and here select this folder exactly, LangChain training. Do not get into the env folder. You must be right here in the LangChain training folder. that you have already created from the terminal, and you open the project like this. As simple as this. And you see this env folder over here. Well, we will never be doing anything in the env folder directly. I repeat, we will never be doing anything directly in the env folder. So just leave it as it is. Now that we have already set up our project here in the IDE, the next step is to set up our environment for this project in the IDE, so that whenever I run any Python application, any Python program in this project in the IDE, it understands which Python environment to pick up. So I'll just click right mouse button here and I'll go to my module settings. In module settings, I'll go to project. And from the project here, you see there's an option to set up the SDK. Which SDK will I set up? I will set up the Python SDK. So I'll just simply click here, add Python SDK from the disk. I have already installed that Python environment, right? We have already used that Python 3-m venv. We have already created the virtual environment. So here it says the environment that you want to select. Do you want to create a new environment or select an existing one? We have already created, so I will select existing one. I click over here and then I better click here, project directory. It will immediately take me to the project directory here. And within that, you remember, see env folder, see here it is the same env folder. Within that, you've got the bin folder. Within the bin folder, if it is not already expanded, you can always click on expand, click and expand that and select Python 3 and then click on OK. Just click on OK, apply, OK. And now what is it that we have done? We have set up the Python environment, the version of the Python that we want to use in this project in the IDE. Take a look at this. I can always click on the terminal out here. And when I click on the terminal, you see this, I get the terminal, and this IDE is smart enough to understand that this is the env. Can you see this env here? Right? It has taken up that environment automatically, since we have already set up the environment by clicking right mouse button, module settings, and then project, and this option here. You see this, add Python SDK. Correct. Now, since I've already done it, I'll come out of it. And then here also, I can very well say PIP hyphen version, and it will give me the version of PIP. Now we are set with the project, with the new project. Now the next step is that we will create, I will click right mouse button, or I'll just say command N. In case of Windows, you can say control N for this menu to come up. And I'll say file, or else let's create a package first. So I'll say I want to create a Python package. And what will be the name of that package? I'll say LLMs. Okay, so I will write all my LLM specific code and then LangChain specific code later in a different package. Here I'm saying LLMs. So within this, I will start writing my code. And here within this, I will create a new file. I will give the name of the file as, I'll say chat underscore with Mistral. This is the model that we are going to use. This is the Mistral is a company, it's a French company, Mistral AI, and they have built a model, very sophisticated model, very powerful model, and the API key is freely available for this model. We don't have to pay even a dime in order to get the API key, and you can just keep on using it without paying anything, so they have not yet started charging for the APIs, and that's what we will be using. So I'll say, I will explain more about Mistral as we proceed further. So chat with Mistral.py. So this is the LLM model. Mistral is the LLM model that we will be using. But before we proceed further, you've got to make sure that you have selected, or rather you have installed a plugin for Python in this IDE. Because if you have just installed this IDE, you may not have, of course, you will not actually, if it is a new installation, you will not have your Python plugin over here. So I'll just simply go to IntelliJ. If you are on Windows, then under Window you will get option of settings, or else you will be able to get the option of settings here also. Can you see this here? Here also you will be able to get settings, and then you can go to settings. Here you can click on plugins, and then here marketplace, and here you can just simply search for Python, and you will find Python Community Edition out here. So this is the plugin that will help you to write code. It will just make your life easier. Without this plugin also, you can very well write code, but then it will not give you any compilation error. If at all there is any compilation error and so on, it will not support you. But if you have this plugin, writing code becomes a cakewalk here in IntelliJ. So install this plugin. If you are on Vision Code or PyCharm, if you are on PyCharm, I believe that it will automatically have this plugin installed in it. Well, whatever approach you take, whether this IDE or any other IDE, if this is the IDE, then you better install this. And then in my case, it is already installed, and I'm ready to write code. I'm ready to write code. Right? Okay. See, we will be needing a lot of libraries here in this particular project, the libraries of LangChain, the library of .env and so on. So each and every library that we will need in this particular project, let us configure all of those libraries in something called requirements.txt file. And then we can always use pip install -r requirements.txt. Those who have already worked with Java, you have got Gradle, you've got POM, model over there, Maven, Gradle, and so on. Here, since we have already set up the environment, once we create requirements.txt and we configure our libraries there, we will be able to install our libraries the way you install libraries of Maven, via Maven and Gradle in your Java project. Similarly, here in Python, you will be able to install the libraries in this virtual environment here through requirements.txt. So what I'm going to do here is that I will click again, either Command N, or you can say Control N if you are on Windows. And here you will say a file, and we will give the name of the file as requirements.txt. That's what. And here, this is empty. This is fine, and we will later on, as needed, we will keep on adding our uh, we will keep adding our So as and when needed, we will keep on adding our libraries over here, and then we will be installing those libraries. So coming back over here, now you see, before we start writing any code here, it is needless to say that we will need to configure the Mistral API key. Only then I will be able to communicate with Mistral model. I just simply cannot communicate without having the API key. And where am I going to configure the API key? Will I hardcode the API key out here? You better not. In such a case, if you are writing an application and if you hardcode some API keys kind of values here in your .py file directly, and if you share the project on GitHub, and you make it available to others, in that case you will end up sharing your API key with others as well. So it is highly recommended that you create your own .env file out here. So here I'll say, to work with Mistral, OpenAI, or any one of these LLM models via your code, you need to have their API key, obviously. And how do you get that API key of Mistral? That we will come to it a bit later. But then where are we going to use that API key? Directly in our code here? No. If you do that, and if you share this project on GitHub with someone, you will end up sharing your API key also with that person. So it is advisable that you do not configure, or you do not write your API key, the value of the API key right here in some variable. Instead, you create a .env file. So what we will do here is that here I will create in my root project, in the root folder of my project, I will create a new file. I'll give the name of the file as .env. It must be lowercase .env. Now, this is the file in which we will configure all our properties, all our API keys, and everything else that the value of which we do not want to put in the source code directly. And one thing very important, you will have to make sure that when you initialize the Git repository for this project, just make sure that you do not add this to GitHub. You do not, in fact, you add the entry, you make an entry of .env in the .gitignore file, so that when you push the project, .env file does not go to GitHub. So thereby you have your API keys stored and saved on your local machine, and it does not get shared with anyone. So here I am going to define, I'll say Mistral underscore API underscore key. For now, I just give some dummy underscore key or some dummy key value out here. Yeah. And I'll come to it. I will show you how exactly from where you will get the API key, and how you will come back and get the API key, and you will come back over here and you will set that API key here. But for now, let's keep this as it is. And I will get started with my code here. Pretty simple stuff. I will get started with if underscore underscore name is equal to main. See, I have the auto completion enabled. I have the ultimate edition of IntelliJ, and hence I am getting all of these features If you can enable this in the community edition, fine, great. If not, then you can very well, you know, just follow along and you can write the code that I'm writing over here. In fact, if you are in the phase of learning, I strongly recommend that you write a code instead of using this auto completion, so that that learning process has that, it gets engraved in your mind. It gets seeps it gets. So I highly recommend. You see, I am using IntelliJ Ultimate Edition, and hence I have this feature of auto completion and stuff. Otherwise, if you do not have Ultimate Edition, if you have Community Edition, in fact, I would recommend that you work with Community Edition during the learning phase, at least so that you write code, you handwrite the code instead of your AI completing the entire sentence for you, so that your learning process is really very effective. So I'll just come back over here. If underscore underscore name is equal to main, then I will write my rest of the code over here. What will I write? I will write, okay, instead of writing that, uh, okay, so I'll say if, first of all, I'll say Mistral underscore, I'll just simply say API underscore key is equal to, I'll say OS dot environment. I'll say get env. Can you see this OS dot get env and Mistral API key? This is what I'm going to write, but it has got the wrong. I'll say Mistral underscore API. Okay, Mistral underscore API key. Now, how is this going to work? How will my Python application know that it is supposed to pick up the value of Mistral underscore API underscore key from the .env folder, from the .env file here? How will it know that? By this. So I'll say I'll say .env. Now, see, this is the library I am using. From .env, I want to import. What is it that I want to import? I want to import, I'll say load underscore env. This is what I want to import. But then this particular library is not yet installed. It is not there in my requirements.txt. So I'll just use control 1 on Windows and command 1 on Mac. And I'll say installs. You see, there is an option of installing the package.env. So I'll say install the package for me. And it says you are installing the package.env. Make sure that the package name is correct. So I'll say, yeah, that's correct. I'll just simply say yes. And then it starts doing the installation. You see this? Once it installs successfully, then I'll say load.env. Sorry, the name was wrong. Load.env. So this is how you load, import. So this is how you can while writing the code, you can install the libraries. But now, is there an entry already made of .env in requirements.txt? No. So whenever you take this project, and if suppose you zip this project, or if you put it on GitHub and then you pull it on some other machine, there you will not have this installed automatically. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to say pip freeze hyphen, or rather, greater than sign. This will write a file requirements.txt. It will, whatever is the content of pip freeze, it will put the content in the requirements.txt. Now, when I double click over here, can you see this? .env and python-env, these two libraries are there. Well, you do not need both of these libraries, just one of them will do, but that's okay. We will keep these two libraries out here. Correct. And once we are once we have done this, what we are going to do is that we'll say load.env. So this will actually load the properties that are configured in the .env file. And here, after getting the key, I'll just simply check whether I'm getting the value of the key or not. So I'll say if API key is none. If it is really none, I will raise an exception, or else I will just simply say print. I'll say please set environment variable Mistral API key, and I better exit if that is the case. Or else I'll say print got the API key. That's what. Now let me run this code and see whether I am getting the API key, or it results into this if statement. In that case, if it reaches here, that means there is something wrong in my code, or maybe there is something wrong in the way I have created the .env file, or something is wrong. Okay, so let's check that out. I'll just run this. I'll click here and I say run, and then you see got the API key. If suppose I misspell it deliberately, and then if I run this, then in that case, it will come here. Can you see this? Please set environment variable Mistral API key. Why? Because actually this key is not there. Go to env and you see this key. This is the key. The name here is wrong. Correct. So I'll just go back here. I'll remove this once again, run this in order to just simply show you that so far so good the program runs. Now we will learn how to get this API key and actually get it configured and actually configure it over here. Right, friends? So let's get started. So let's get started with getting the API key. So let's learn how to get the API key of Mistral model from console.mistral.ai. So now we are going to learn how to get the API key from Mistral. Thing that we will be doing is that we will create an account. I already have an account. So you will have to create an account on Mistral. How do you go ahead and create an account? Please see, take a look at this. So I'll just go to, Chrome. I'll just open browser or whichever browser you are comfortable with. Just open that browser. And you need to go to console.mistral.ai. You can see this Mistral console. This is where you need to go. I have already created an account and you can very well have a free account created. Absolutely. You don't have to pay anything in order to create an account on Mistral. Like you have OpenAI, Chatbot, ChatGPT from OpenAI, and you've got Grok. Similarly, you have Mistral as well. This is, as I said earlier, is a French company, and the model that they have built is real powerful model. They also have a model for analyzing images. They also have models, especially for analyzing your code base and helping you with coding. That's called code sprawl. You see here, code sprawl here. So you need to have a separate API key in order to build your own applications around code sprawl. Well, so let's go to the API keys out here. I have already created an account and I have already logged onto it. You can create an account and just go ahead and click on API keys. And this is the place from where you will just basically create new API key. Give a name to it, whatever name you want to give, just give a name to it. It can be any name. And then here you need to select a date. If you do not select the date, then in that case, it will never expire. Otherwise, you select a date till that date, till that point in time, the key will be valid. After that, the key will be invalid. And you just simply say create new key. And now whatever key you have, it generates, whatever key it generates, just make sure that you save it somewhere because it will not allow you to see the key after it has been generated. So once you generate, okay, let me generate one and show you. I'll say LangChain underscore and I'll say training. And if I click on create new out here, you see this, it will create a key for me. Can you see this? I can just copy this key and keep it saved somewhere. But make sure that you save it somewhere and you have access to it and then you do not forget that. Otherwise, well, it doesn't really make a huge difference. Even if you lose the key, you can always create a new key and continue with it, right? So that's it. So I have created and I do have two keys and I have stored this key. So whatever key is generated over here, copy that key and then you are supposed to go back to your IntelliJ and in your project, just go to e.env file and you have to paste the key over here. Just copy and paste the key here. That's it. That's what you need to do, right? And I would like to also explain a few more things about Mistral. You see this, you can go to the docs of Mistral and you will get the entire documentation out here. And you can see there is something called quick start out here. And it explains how to quickly start with Python-based application. And this is exactly what we will be doing. This is exactly what we will be writing. We will in fact copy paste the code from here and we will see this in action in our project. That's what we are going to do. And as far as the models are concerned, you can see you can click here on models and it will give you the list of all the models that they have built. Code Strahl, you can see our cutting edge language model for coding with the second version released on January 2025. And then Mistral Large, this is the general purpose model. It is a top tier reasoning model that they have built. Then they've got Pixtral. This is the model that they have built in order to analyze images and stuff. And then you've got Mistral Sabah. This is especially for the languages from Middle East, Arabic languages and stuff in South Asian languages. So all of these are the different models that they have. What we will use is this Mistral large model, right? So I'll just go back to my IntelliJ and I will copy paste the key here, right? And once I have copied and pasted the key here, I will not show that, I will not open the .env file so that it does not go in my recording and my key is not exposed publicly. So what I'm going to do here is that I will just copy and paste this. I'll just pause this for a moment. Okay, so I have copied and pasted the actual key in .env file. That's exactly what you are also supposed to do. Pretty simple. Once again, I repeat, you need to go to Chrome or any other browser for that matter. Just go to console.mistral.ai, and that's it. And there, of course, if you have not yet created an account, you need to create an account, and then here under API keys, you have an option to create a new API key. Copy paste that in your .env file, just come back over here, and then let's see, I will run this once again, and let's see whether I'm getting the value. Well, I'm not printing the value, but it just simply sees that I've got the API key. If at all the API key is not there, of course, as we have discussed earlier, it will print this message and it will just simply exit out and the program will terminate, right? So far, so good. I'll just go to my Chrome, and then you see this. I just mentioned that we've got docs out here, and in the docs we've got quick start. Why to reinvent the wheel, and why to, it's all there available here. So what I'm going to do, but see, make a note of this. It is using the SDK. SDK is provided by Mistral. Mistral does provide out of the box, an SDK rather, I would say it provides an SDK which out of the box provides you with a class called Mistral, using which you will be able to send messages and start interacting with the LLM. So I will just copy this, come back over here, and then I just paste this over here. But of course, Mistral is not yet installed. So I'll just click right. I'll just put it over here, and then okay. So what I'm going to do here is that I'll just go back to my requirements.txt, and I'll say Mistral AI is equal. I'll just put Mistral AI. It will take the latest version. I'll say install all missing packages, and I'll say okay, and it will install the missing packages. So it will do the installation. It is installing. You can see this here. It is installing. Or if else, or else you can just simply go here and you can again get pip install -r requirements.txt, and it will do the installation. So we do have now, when I go back over here, you will see there is no error because Mistral is a class that is available in this module, and this module is actually the SDK that is provided by Mistral itself. So now we're going to come back here, and then I'm going to write this code. So API key is something that we already have. Now see this, this is very interesting. So the model that we are using is Mistral large latest model. As I just mentioned a few minutes, few seconds back rather, you see models, these are the different models they have. So LLM, all of these different companies, OpenAI, Claude, and Claude is actually their model, but Anthropic is the name of the company. So Anthropic is the name of the company. OpenAI, Mistral, these are all you've got X, Twitter. X is the company of Elon Musk, and they have built their own models. They have built their models. So Mistral has these models. OpenAI, they have got ChatGPT 4.0 model, and they've got 3.5, and all of those models are there. And Claude Sonnet model is available. Claude 3.5, and then the other models are also available from Anthropic. You can check out on their site what all latest models they have. I am a big fan of Mistral, and I've been using the Mistral extensively for all my AI apps. So I am pretty familiar with the models that they have provided. Well, you can use any one of those models. So if you want to use OpenAI model, if you want to use models from X, if you want to use models from Anthropic, any one of those Claude models, you just need to create an API key. Go to their platform, register, get the API key, and you will do exactly what I'm doing over here. It is just that a bit, the SDK that is provided here is for Mistral. It provides the SDK, the one that we have just installed. This is for Mistral, but you will find the SDKs available for OpenAI. You will have SDKs available for, Python SDKs available for Grok and for Claude and so on. We are using Mistral, hence this is all. And then later on, when we get started with LangChain, you will realize that LangChain will act as one single library for us, using which we will be able to access any one of these models from any one of these companies. Okay, we will come to that later. But for now, let's use this model. This is the model because we need to, when we access the LLM from any company, we need to specify which model we want to use, right? So I just come back over here, close this, and I come back here, and then I'll write the rest of the code here. And I'll say model is so and so. And then I'll say this is the client. I'll just copy and paste this over here. I could have done that earlier also in one shot, but in any case, here you are. Okay, so see this. This is the model. This is the model that we have, right? We've got the Mistral API key. This API key is being passed as a parameter in the constructor of Mistral. and then we say chat response is equal to client is this. So let me be more specific out here. I'll say instead of client, I'll say Mistral underscore client. Here you are. So this Mistral underscore client dot chat dot complete. This is the function that you will be using in order to start sending messages. And you can see this. What is the model passed as a parameter? This is the model, right? If I wanted to analyze images, then in that case, not this. Instead, I will use Mistral hyphen latest, correct? Instead of Mistral. So this is the model that I want to use. And this is the name of the model here and messages. Can you see this? This is an array of messages. And in the messages, you can have several messages. As you can see, this is an array. There can be several messages. Here, role colon user. Now, it has a meaning. When you say role colon user or else role, the value of role is either system or the value of role is either assistant. So what it really means by system, what it really means by assistant, we will come to that later. As of now, user is the one who interacts with the chatbot. So when you go to the chatbot of Mistral, you go to the chatbot of ChatGPT, chatbot or Grok or Claude, you as a user, you are sending the messages and you get the response back. So that's what it represents. This message, that the role of this message, the one who's sending the message, the role that is being played is of a user. And what is the content? What is the best French cheese? Instead, I will say, what is the capital of United States? Okay. Or I'll say France or whatever. And then I just click here and I run this code and you will see for yourself. Now I don't need this print got the API key. I'll just remove that. And you see this in the chat response, you have an array of choices, and within the choices, you'll pick up the very first response. And then in that, you've got a property called message, within which you've got a property called content. And then you see this. I'll just run this and show you. Take a look at this. It will give me the right answer. And you see this, if you would have asked the same question, to Mistral on their chatbot, see, I go to Chrome and then I go here and here you are. See, here you are. I can start asking questions here. So instead of using the chatbot, what have you done? You have written your own code, and via your code, you have used the SDK in your code of Mistral, and you are sending messages and getting the response back. Here you are, the capital of United States is Washington. Here you are, right? And the response that comes back, that response is in a particular format. As you can see, double star over here. This indicates that this is supposed to be bold. Actually, the response that comes back is in markdown format. It is in markdown format. Well, this is how it is. Any question that you ask over here, it will start, replying to your questions. It will start. See, once again, what I'm going to do here is that I will have yet another message here. I'll say role is user, and I'll say content is. Instead of saying now, what is the capital? I'll say I am Muhammad Shakir. And then question, once again, another message out here, role is user. And then I'll say, what is, content, of course. And I'll say, what is my name? Now you see this, it will tell me that your name is Shakir. So you are having, like you can see this, your name as you stated is Muhammad Shakir. This code runs like a charm. Now, once again, I will run this code. Please note that the question here is describe the beauty of Paris. Now, when it describes the beauty of Paris, it will not send me a response of one liner. The response will be maybe 8 to 10 lines or even maybe more. And see, it is taking a bit of time because it is waiting for the entire response to come back. That API will generate the response and it will send the entire response in one shot. Hence, you might have seen that it has taken time. Once again, we will run this and you will see for yourself that it has taken time. Why? Because it is accumulating the entire response and sending the response in one shot. Instead of this, can we stream over the response? Is it possible that we keep on getting the response as we keep on getting the response in chunks? So each chunk that we receive out of the entire response, whatever the total response is supposed to be, maybe 20 lines. Out of those 20 lines, I want the LLM to return back to me the response in chunks. That's what I want. So that I can keep on printing the chunk as it is received. This will give us a better user experience, as same as you get in a chatbot that you use in the browser. So what we will do here is that instead of saying chat response, I will keep this. What I'll do is that I will keep this code exactly as it is. I'll just comment this. Okay, I'll duplicate it first and I will comment this, right? So that you still have access to this code. And here I will simply change the name stream underscore response. Well, I am changing the name of the variable just for the sake of better readability, no other reason. But instead of using complete function, I'm going to use stream function instead of complete stream. Now the stream function under the hood will end up using streaming API provided by Mistral. We are using the SDK of Mistral, right? So under the hood, it will use another API. That another API, streaming API, is the one which is a special API that does not send a response in one shot. Instead, it sends response in chunks. So now I will have response in chunks. Now what I'm going to do, of course, I will not print just one single chunk. I want to print all the chunks. In that case, I will run a for loop. I'll say for chunk and stream response, and then print chunk. Now chunk has got a lot of properties. Let's print and see. We'll just print chunk and see what we get. I'll say comma. I'll say end is equal to, at the end of each and every chunk that I print, I'll say I do not want a backslash n or anything. Usually, we all know that when you use a print function, it automatically puts a backslash n towards the end of the data that it is printing. I do not want that backslash n to be printed. Whatever we receive, and we get it, or else, okay, backslash and backslash n. So now what will happen is that we will get the entire chunk printed and then two blank lines and the other chunk and then so on. So let's see what we get. I'll just run this code once again. And you see this, I have started getting the data. Can you see this? See, I've started getting the data. And it is sending chunks, data in chunks. It is sending the response in chunks. And I'm printing each one of those chunks. See for yourself. But do I really want to print the chunks, or I want to print the data in the chunk? Note that whatever chunk that you receive, each and every chunk is actually nothing but an object of type completion chunk. And in that, you've got ID, you've got model, you've got choices, you've got this, and you've got content and tool calls, finished response, object created, and so on. This is what you have. But the main property here is the data property. So each and every chunk object has got a property called data, and with data is equal to what that data property is, an object of this type, completion chunk. So I will take which property of data? So chunk dot, I will take the property of data. I'll say data. So that means the data will refer to this object. And in this object, what I want is choices. Can you see that within choices, it is actually an array? Can you see that right from here to here? It's an array. It's an array. So I'll say data dot, I'll say choices. Here you are. And then from choices, I will take the very first object of choice. Can you see this? And I will print the content. So I'll say choices, zero choice dot, and I'll say content. Okay, is that the content? Okay, now you see this in an array, we actually have an object of type completion response stream choice. This is the object that we have. So that means each and every choice object, choices is an array. So the zeroth choice is actually an object which contains something called delta. Can you see this? Delta. Right? Can you see this? Delta is equal to delta message, which starts from here. See this delta? Again, it's a property. So that means within choices, I have a property called delta. Here you are. And delta is equal to, that is a property. It is an object of type delta message. In that object, we have something called content. So I will say delta dot content. Here you are. And now, of course, we want to print the entire response and with a better user experience. Of course, I do not want a backslash n, because automatically there is a backslash n that is happening because this chunk that is being returned back, which contains this content, is a formatted content already. So what I'm going to do here is I'll remove this and I'll say I do not want anything to be automatically suffixed towards the end of whatever is the content that is printed by the print function. Let's see now. See the user experience now. See this. This is as same as the experience that you have in your chatbot that you use through the browser. Take a look. Right. So Paris is filled with beautiful buildings and structures from various periods and so on. Here you are. See. So this is Python code that we have implemented In Python, we have implemented a simple, piece of code that connects with the LLM, either with the completion API or the stream API, and we start getting the response and we print the response here, right? This works like a jar.